In this video, I will give you a few life lessons you may have learned from the movie Little, starring Marsai Martin, Issa Rae, and Regina Hall. For those who forgotten or just didn't see it, here's a quick synopsis. In Little, Regina Hall portrays Jordan, an overbearing boss and tech mogul who is magically transformed into the teenage version of herself right before an important presentation. While teenage Jordan attends school and makes some not so popular friends, April, played by Issa Rae, attempts to whip the team into action to keep their biggest client happy. Will they be able to help each other navigate the transitions of their personal and work lives, or will everything fall apart? There's a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. Life lesson number 1. We are conditioned to accept toxic work relationships between managers and employees as a part of life. Jordan calls Jasmine a mean, cruel bully who doesn't care about anyone's feelings. She describes the behavior of a child without acknowledging that she, as an adult, exhibits these same behaviors toward everyone. Adult Jordan doesn't have one person she treats well or even semi-nicely. Of course, characters like Jordan, who torture their employees because they can, or take credit for the work of others, is a trope we've seen a dozen times over. This bad boss trope can be found all over sitcoms, dramas, musicals, cartoons, and just about any other genre you can think of. If a character hates their life, there's a good chance that a bad or mean boss, leader, or teacher helps to make the person miserable. In such stories, the character sticks around because they can't afford to leave or believe they can't do any better. Through these stories and images, we've learned that toxic work relationships between managers and employees are normal. Combine such stories and images with our own experiences, and suddenly movies like Little, minus the magic, feel somewhat relatable. After all, most of us have dealt with a boss, leader, or teacher who exhibits behaviors similar to Jordan's. They may not have forced us to eat apples they'd already licked on, but they surely had unreasonable expectations and didn't mind publicly humiliating and or degrading their subordinates. In Little, everything works out in the end, and the big mean boss has a change of heart. However, in the real world, things often go a little differently. Realistically, bosses like Jordan don't change. Instead, they often become more demanding. They seem to always have a fresh expression of displeasure ready to go. They are often withholding in regards to compliments on your work, and they make it increasingly harder for you to move up the ladder. Now, they may have expressed room for growth and proclaimed to value new ideas during the interview process. Such ideas may be printed on walls or stated all the time, but every time you attempt to reach a rung other than the one you're on, they make it their business to knock you down. After all, the real goal is to keep you in your place. If you happen to move up or around them, they don't tend to become more pleasant or reevaluate their behavior. They usually raise the ante instead. And if unreasonable expectations are baked into the company culture, the horrendous behavior grows exponentially. In such cases, so many people will stick it out, especially if the pay is good, because bad bosses are a dime a dozen. If the pay is great, they may even convince themselves it's a great opportunity and go over and beyond to prove themselves. More than a few of us have been like April, biting our tongues and going over and beyond just to get a raise, promotion, or sometimes just to make it. If you can't leave a job until you have another one, a rule I tend to follow, you will bide your time for as long as you have to because you think you can't afford to leave. All things considered, having a boss or leader who is actually great, One who creates an encouraging work environment that you don't want to leave and pays well may be rare. Or is the belief that such things are rare proof that the conditioning is working? Drop down in the comments and tell me if you've had more good bosses than bad ones. Life lesson number 2. Manners or good behavior is for kids, the poor, and the powerless. April has been Jordan's assistant for 3 years, during which Jordan has talked cash crazy to her daily. Yet when second-time teen Jordan tries it, April stops her without hesitation and says, "I like when kids have old school manners." Whether it is refusing to get out of the car at school, singing and dancing on tabletops in random restaurants, or a tirade on April for doing the job she was asked to do, discipline is always suggested, and spankings are specifically recommended in regards to second-time teen Jordan's behavior. I'm not arguing that her behavior was okay, but it is interesting that the only thing that changed was her age. Adult Jordan cuts lines. She berates and threatens to fire or have people fired when things don't go her way. She speaks to everyone as if they are her subordinates, and she doesn't use please and thank you or any other mannerable term of respect. She believes cutting without tipping is rude and that her black card is in charge. In short, second-time teen Jordan behaved exactly as adult Jordan would have. She just happened to have been stuck in a kid's body. Here in the real world, we don't interact with adults who have magically been trapped inside their teen bodies. But we all deal with adults who behave like ill-mannered children. If said adult has enough power and or money, people will often let their poor behavior slide. After all, such people tend to hate receiving correction or critique and hearing the word no. If you are smart, you probably aren't too quick to break these unspoken rules, especially since they can usually find a loophole or someone to say yes, even if that someone is not you. And they don't have to say please or thank you to get it. Unfortunately, Jordan hit the nail on the head when she says, "I got big and rich, so who gonna check me, boo?" This, of course, is not to say that you have to let such people treat you any kind of way. But don't be surprised if they threw manners away a long time ago. Life lesson number 3. Wait until you're grown is not a solution to kids' everyday problem. In the movie's opening flashback, we learned that Jordan was a little different from her 13-year-old peers. During this pivotal moment in her life, she was publicly humiliated by another student. Soon after, in an attempt to cheer her up, Jordan's parents tell her that it won't be like this always, that she will grow up and be the boss one day, and no one bullies the boss. Her parents meant well, but such statements teach children that to make it in this world, or get the last laugh, so to speak, they have to either become cool, the bully, rich, a star, or an adult. I get it. If your child is looking or feeling dejected, you want to give them something to look forward to. However, the answer to "the kids are picking on me" can't always be change who you are or just wait until you're big and grown. Otherwise, children learn to constantly curate themselves for the pleasure of others or seek to escape to another place or time. Escapism is fun and can be a useful tool, but it can't be the answer to everything, and it cannot solve every problem, especially since just as children have to deal with unpleasant peers, so do adults. Imagine telling a good friend or partner about how much of an ass your boss is, and they say, "Well, just focus on retirement. No one pushes around old people. You would think they were crazy, especially if retirement is far away. But this is how adults often treat children with their everyday problems. Because we look at childhood as a fleeting thing that doesn't last very long, we treat kids like their daily problems are insignificant. As annoying as it may be to hear a child say, parents or adults just don't understand, like we weren't once children, there may be some truth to the statement. Realistically, the farther removed we are from our childhood, the more likely we are to have forgotten the nuances of being a kid. When Jordan says, "This place, the memories, I've never felt so small," it's clear that Jordan's self-esteem took a real hit through her interactions with her peers. Many real-world children have similar experiences, and cute adages like, "You will be the boss one day," do not solve their current issues or plummeting self-esteem. Instead of teaching kids to become something else, kids must be encouraged to be themselves even when others don't respond positively. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like you. The world is full of mean people who are mean just because they can be. But kids have to learn how to navigate the world as their authentic selves, regardless of who's watching. Life lesson number 4. Kids need real-world solutions to being bullied. When Kid Jordan's talent show presentation ended in an injury caused by one of her peers, instead of the out-of-touch speech that her parents gave her about the future, they could have pressed charges against the student who caused her harm. By doing so, Jordan would have learned that there are real-world consequences for harming another person. This whole "we don't hit" thing doesn't work if there are no real consequences for when someone does harm another person. Even more so, she may have learned that people don't get to treat her any kind of way and get away with it. She would have learned that there are appropriate ways to stand up for herself and that her parents' support isn't just lip service. Instead, she learns to become the bully in the form of a boss. Here are a few problems with the lesson she walked away with. All smart kids do not become bosses. Kid bullies sometimes grow up and become bosses too. Everyone has to answer to someone, and sometimes bullied kids become adults who are bullied. Now, I get it. Bullying can feel like an overused buzzword. However, bullying is a real-world experience for a significant number of children. From being taunted when the teacher is not looking or via social media to real physical harm. Bullying happens on most campuses every day, and the solution is hardly ever an out-of-touch speech about perseverance. I'm aware pressing charges is not always a valuable solution. Neither am I proclaiming to have all the answers. But kids who are being bullied need to know that there are appropriate ways to stand up for themselves. They need help putting those ways into action, and they need to know that there are adults around them who will step in when necessary. Now I know someone's watching this wondering if I liked the movie. On a scale of 1 to 5 stars, I give Little 3 stars. The movie doesn't do the best job of explaining the magical phenomenon, and the characters' lives and personalities could have been fleshed out a little more beyond their work styles. Even when the characters were not at work, they behaved as if they were. We don't see or hear about anyone's family. We don't even see or hear about Jordan's parents beyond the one short scene at the beginning of the movie. Also, this is no strike to Marsai Martin's performance, but it is kind of weird to watch this little girl doing all the things that a grown woman would do. These things aside, I enjoyed the movie. It was cute and funny. Everyone showed up and did a good job. Notable mention for me was Tracy Ellis Ross. I want a homegirl to wake me up with phrases like, it is better to have money and be brokenhearted than be broke and brokenhearted. Let's wake up and get this money. It just made me giggle. Needless to say, the movie forced me to think about 13-year-old me. And I gotta say, I wouldn't want to go back. Would you? Now it's your turn. Don't forget to share, subscribe, hit the bell, and/or tell me your thoughts down in the comments. Did you like the movie? Did you learn anything? Or was it just a good time?